When I reached the cabin, the door was already locked. That was the first thing that felt wrong. The key was still in my pocket. I had rented the cabin only 2 days earlier for a quiet weekend in the mountains. No neighbors, no phone signal, just trees, snow, and silence. It was supposed to be peaceful. But now I was standing on the wooden porch staring at a locked door I knew I hadn't locked. The wind moved slowly through the trees behind me. I pulled the key out and unlocked the door. The lock turned easily, which meant the cabin hadn't been locked from the outside. It had been locked from the inside. I pushed the door open slowly. The inside looked normal. Fireplace, wood table, old couch near the window. The fire I had left burning earlier had burned down to red coals. No movement, no sound, but the air inside felt warmer than it should have been, like someone had been here recently. I stepped inside and closed the door behind me. Snow from my boots melted slowly on the wooden floor. "Hello," I called out. My voice echoed through the small cabin. No answer. I walked through the rooms carefully. Kitchen, bathroom, bedroom. Everything looked exactly the same as when I had left. Except one thing. The bedroom window was open, just a few inches, cold wind drifting through the gap. I stared at it for a moment. I knew I hadn't opened that window. I walked over slowly and closed it. The moment the latch clicked shut, something knocked on the front door. 3 slow knocks. I froze. The sound echoed through the cabin. Knock, knock, knock. I hadn't heard anyone approach the porch. Snow outside was deep enough that footsteps should have been loud. I walked slowly toward the front door. The knocks didn't come again. I stood beside the door for several seconds listening. Nothing, just wind. I opened the door. The porch was empty. Fresh snow covered everything. No footprints. No signs anyone had been there. I stepped outside onto the porch. The forest stretched in every direction, completely silent. Then I noticed something. In the snow beside the porch, a set of footprints. They led out of the forest, toward the cabin. But they stopped at the door. There were no footprints leading away, only coming toward it. I slowly stepped back inside the cabin, closed the door, locked it. The fire in the fireplace cracked softly. The cabin felt too quiet now. Then something moved upstairs. A floorboard creaked, slow, heavy, like someone walking across the room above me. But there was no upstairs. The cabin only had 1 floor. The sound came again. Another step, directly above my head. And then, a voice whispered from the ceiling. "You came back." I didn't move for several seconds after I heard the whisper. My eyes stayed fixed on the wooden ceiling above me while the fire in the fireplace cracked quietly behind me. The voice had sounded close, too close, like someone was lying directly on the roof just inches above the boards. I forced myself to speak even though my throat felt dry. "Who's there?" The wind outside pushed against the cabin walls, but nothing answered. For a moment I thought maybe I imagined it. Then the floorboard above me creaked again. Slow, heavy. The sound moved from one side of the ceiling to the other like something crawling across the roof. I stepped backward slowly toward the door without taking my eyes off the ceiling. Another creak came directly above me and a small shower of dust drifted down between the wooden boards. My heart was beating so hard I could hear it in my ears. "There is no upstairs," I said quietly. The whisper came again, calm, patient. I know. Every muscle in my body locked. The sound above me stopped completely. The silence felt worse than the footsteps. Then a slow scratching noise began above the ceiling boards, like fingernails dragging across wood. The sound moved slowly toward the center of the cabin. I backed closer to the door. My hand found the handle behind me, but I didn't open it yet. The scratching stopped directly above my head. Then something pressed against the ceiling from above. The wooden boards bent slightly inward like something heavy was leaning on them. Dust fell again. Then another whisper came through the wood. "You weren't supposed to leave." My chest tightened. "What do you mean?" I asked quietly. The answer came immediately. "You locked the door." I felt the cold metal key still in my pocket. "I didn't lock anyone inside," I said. The ceiling creaked again as whatever was above me shifted its weight slowly. The boards bent further downward for a moment before rising back into place. The whisper returned. "You locked the cabin." My mind raced trying to understand what it meant. Then I suddenly remembered something. When I arrived yesterday, the door had been locked from the inside. I had used the spare key from the lockbox to open it. I had assumed the owner forgot to unlock it before renting the place. My stomach tightened. "You were already here," I whispered. For several seconds, there was no sound at all. Then the voice above the ceiling answered softly. "Yes." The scratching started again, this time much faster, moving toward the front door. Toward me. My hand tightened on the door handle. The whisper came again, but now it sounded different. Closer. Almost excited. "And now you came back." The ceiling above the door suddenly cracked loudly as something heavy dropped onto it from above. The entire cabin shook. I pulled the door open instantly and stumbled out into the snow. Cold air hit my face as I turned back toward the cabin. For 1 second, everything was quiet. Then something inside the cabin slammed hard against the door from the other side. The door I had just opened. And the whisper came again through the wood. "You forgot to take me with you."